Hey guys, we're going to be changing out a power steering line. This is the pressure line from the pump to the steering rack, and this is on a 2010 Ford Focus. 4-cylinder automatic transmission. And what I'm going to try to do is just take as much of this junk out as I can so that we can see where it goes. But yeah, our pump is right here, and the line goes down, over across the bottom, and then it comes up and goes over the transmission to the back where the steering rack is. We've got a bunch of lines down there, so let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is take this airbox out, and to do that, all we're going to need to do is remove this hose. It just pulls off of here. Then we've got this hose here. See these little gray tabs? You push them over and kind of down a little bit, and they should slide off. So we've got one connection there, also one connection here as well. And once we get those off, we can set that hose off to the side. I'm gonna unplug this sensor right here. There's just a little tab that you press down on right there. It unplugs. And then we've got this band clamp here, flathead screwdriver, loosen it off, undo these. This pulls off, airbox comes out, take the air filter out. We can set that aside. Then next thing I'm gonna do is take this off here, our lower airbox intake, 2 8mm bolts. Once we get those out, this box just comes right out. It's just secured with a little plastic dowel that goes through a rubber grommet. And then once that's off, next thing I'm gonna do is take this battery out. So there's gonna be 2 nuts on some studs right here. You're gonna pull this cable off. It's just a plastic clip that's held on there. Once it's off, you're gonna have access to the 2 nuts. They should be 10mm nuts. They look like this. You take those off. Then what I'm gonna do is take this 8mm bolt out. And that'll let me get this off. Once that's off, you're gonna switch out for a 10mm. We're gonna undo the battery negative. And we can just unplug that, just pull it off. Battery positive. Same thing, set it aside. And then that's gonna let us take our battery out. Once the battery's out, next thing I'm gonna do, take this computer off. Easiest way I find to get these connections off, you'll see these little black nubs that stick out. You gotta push in on those while pushing this over. So you can actually just use a pick, and that'll get those pretty much started for you. And then once you get to that point, you just slide these little levers backwards and these unplug. Very simple. 8mm bolt here, 13mm nut right there. So get the gun out, take that off. This is coming off. Computer should just come out of there, just like that. And then next thing I want to do is take out this battery tray. So we've got 3 13mm nuts, and these ones were severely rusted in place, so it took me probably half an hour to get them out. I managed to stick a 11mm socket on there, and that did the trick. So once you get those nuts out, all we've got left is just a couple of these harness Christmas tree clips here, and there should be some along the back as well, and one in this corner. So once you take that off, you can pull your tray out. That brings us to this point. We pretty much have this battery tray that's attached to the body, but also the motor mount bolts through it, so it's kind of a pain. Now you can see the line right here. We've got 2 lines, this one and this other one. One's a power steering pressure line, the other one's a return line. So we're going to be doing the pressure line today, which happens to be this one with the shielding on it. So at this point, you can pretty much leave the motor mount if you want. If you do want to take it out, it's you're going to stick a jack underneath the transmission. Then you're going to take 3 10mm bolts out located here, here, and here. Then you're going to take these off. There's 4 nuts. I've already taken them off. They're 15mm. You buzz those out, And then the last thing you got to take off is this nut in the center, which is a 21mm nut. You take that off, and then this whole piece just comes right off. And it's going to buy you a whole bunch of room. I mean, the line's already pretty much here, so you don't really have to take that off, but if you wanted to, you could. And then next thing we're going to do is actually go down at the power steering rack, and I'll get a light down there to show you. But we're going to have to undo the bracket that holds the line to the steering rack. Hey guys, so this is from underneath of the car. You can see the power steering rack here where the lines go in. See that 10mm bolt that's right there? We're going to remove that. And that bolt secures the bracket that's attached to the line we want. And it also holds the return line as well. So when we undo this, a bunch of fluid is going to come out. So be prepared to catch it with a drain pan or whatever you want to catch it with. Okay, so we got the bolt out. There's a little plastic wishbone clip here that I'm just going to pop off. Just looks like that. And then this is our line right here that we want. Up to you if you want to try to use some compressed air or whatever to blow all the dirt off. We don't want dirt getting inside of our power steering rack. And then all you're going to do is just grab a hold of your line and wiggle it back and forth. And hopefully it comes out. But this one seems to be stuck in there, so I'm going to go get a flathead screwdriver and see if I can ram it underneath of that plate. All right, I got my screwdriver here. Oh, look at that. Guys, it is in there good. It's in there real good. I'm just hitting this with fire right now because this line is stuck in here really bad and I don't want it to break off, because if it breaks off in there, then I'm in trouble. So I'm just gonna spend a bunch of time here and heat it up. I'm gonna soak it in penetrating fluid, and I just need to get this thing to start moving so that I can get it out, because it's seized in there real bad right now. Just cleaning up all the stuff around it. All right guys, so I just took out the return line in order to gain access to the high pressure line, because I really can't get to it. It's stuck in there real bad. So my initial plan was to just clamp vice grips onto the line and then basically sneak in with a pry bar and pry off of the rack on the pliers to lift the line up. And that's what I just did with the return. I'm gonna have to probably use needle nose pliers. Nope. Gonna have to heat it up some more. All right guys, so I cut out a piece of tin here. This is actually an old heat shield I had laying around so that I could try to protect this big plastic hunk of whatever that protects the intermediate steering shaft. And then I basically got torch up in there, heat the living snot out of it, penetrating fluid, work it back and forth, scrape it off, repeat a bunch of times. Finally, we got it enough where it's loose now and it's starting to move. So I have to reach my arm in up the other way, but I'm just gonna work it back and forth a whole bunch of times and keep spraying it until it comes out. So I'm gonna have to get the hammer in there and hammer that in. I can spin it around, but it's not, I still can't get it up because the O-ring is just, there's a layer of corrosion underneath of that flare, and the O-ring's just getting caught on the side of the corrosion, and there's nothing you can really do. So now that we've got it half-ass lifted up, I can hopefully hammer a screwdriver underneath of the flare on both sides and lift to get this thing out. But this tube's like so close to breaking off. All right, so there's the line. You can see how it was about to like rip right at the very tip here from trying to get this to start moving. We started twisting it side to side, and there was so much corrosion built around the top of that flare that it was just completely flat. There was no like groove to stick a screwdriver down in. But basically, all I did was, once I got it cleaned out, sort of, I was able to put a screwdriver in under like this and then pry it up. But it was tough coming out the whole way, so I just pry up a little bit on this side, spray penetrating oil in, get stuck underneath this side, pry it up, and just kind of walk it out. That's the way to do it. I did take my little pneumatic saw and chop the line off so that I didn't have a bunch of line, and that way I could spin it 360 degrees. But yeah, the amount of corrosion that's on that is absolutely insane. So that's what the O-ring's trying to get by. And there's so much corrosion in the bore that it just can't go up. So lots of penetrating oil, fire, everything. We got it out. Now I'm gonna clean this up and maybe we can actually get this car done. So I got this little impact and I'm gonna try to weasel this thing up in there. You see all this corrosion that's in this bore? I gotta try to clean that out the best that I can. I know a bunch of it's gonna go into the steering rack, which I don't want, but I sort of don't really have a choice. So we're just gonna do it. All right, use at home. If your line comes out, you don't have to do this, but I just sprayed like half a can of penetrating oil on that, so I'm sure there's quite a bit that got inside the rack. I'm just gonna try to fill up the rack with a bunch of fresh power steering fluid, and then I'm gonna do this to basically hopefully push the penetrating oil out, just to clean the rack out. All right, a whole bunch of dirt just came out of there, so that was good that I just did that. Now I'm fairly certain that's as clean as it's gonna get, so now we get to take the rest of the lines off. We've got two mounting locations, one up here and another one that's right here, and those hold the line to the air conditioning pump and looks like the front of the block. Now, these brackets do not come with the new line that we have, so we need to take them off. Now, the brackets bolt on, but in order to take, there's a bunch of other stuff that's attached to them. And what I'm gonna do is just undo the clips that are part of the bracket and just take the line off and leave the brackets attached. And then stick this line on. I'll probably just zip tie them on, but I don't recommend doing that, but completely up to you. It's the easy way out. But there's a little tab up here. You can kind of see it up in there, but the tab just like comes off basically and then goes through the square hole and unfolds. So kind of like that, and then you can see the line now comes out of it. And then I'll just basically put the new line in and then fold that back up. And I'm gonna do the same on this side as well. All right, so this one they have facing the fan, so I really couldn't bend it because it, I don't know, it was all rusted together. So I just unbolted it. 10mm nut, take that off. This thing comes off, I'll transfer it over. We got underneath my finger, basically down in there. It's not this rubber one, but it's the one that's further back in. Yeah. All right, so we're gonna just try to loosen this off now, and it's pretty tight, so. Hold on. All right, we're gonna try to remove the reservoir now, as one of our live viewers has recommended. And we're gonna give this a try and see if that buys us enough room to get in there and get this thing off. 10 mil bolt. Okay, so we managed to get this off without removing the reservoir. We tried to get the reservoir out by removing the two 10 mil bolts, but the little rubber grommet that's in there over time has basically turned to hard plastic, so we couldn't get it off, and I don't want it to break. So I used a line wrench, stuck it up underneath of there like this. It's an 18 millimeter, had it sitting on the line. And then what I did was use my 1/2-inch ratchet with a long extension and my 6-pointed hex socket. And I stuck it down in the other end of the line wrench. And then I was able to use that as leverage because the line was on there, the nut was on there so tight, I didn't have enough leverage. I wasn't strong enough to break the nut. So yeah, we stick that in there like that, put it on, break it free. And once it's broke free, I wasn't able to use this anymore because the nut would only turn so far where I would run into the bottom of this reservoir, and I couldn't get the nut, I couldn't get it started on the next side to get it to go because the intake's in the way. So then I have to switch over to a stubby wrench where I can do that, and now I've got to wrench it out until it's free enough that I can spin it out by hand, which it's still too tight right now, but that's what we're gonna do right now. Wrench it out. We're using these Matco flank drive shorties, and we'll get this line off. Hopefully we can drop it at the bottom and start putting this thing back together. All right, guys, so now we're gonna undo all this stuff now that we have the card down right now. What I'm gonna do is just try to move a bunch of this stuff kind of out of the road, because the line goes in and around everything, so it's not very nice to deal with. You can see how it snakes in and around every friggin' line. I got so many lines and hoses and wiring harnesses, and so I pull this out. I'm sure we got a couple more anchor points around here somewhere. Looks like a bracket that's in here. Pull that off so this slides through a little easier, and we'll see if we can push this out the bottom, put up on all these other lines. Yeah, that's gonna be a greasy one to get back in there. All right, so I sort of just pushed this down as far as it'll go. I'm gonna lift the car up now and we'll try to finagle it at the bottom and finally get this thing out after 7 hours. All right, guys, so we're just gonna weasel this out. Oh, we can't because the wiring harness splits around. You gotta be joking me. I quit. All right, so I just chopped it off with this cutoff wheel and pulled it out because I couldn't get it out of there because it goes through between the harness for some stupid reason. But anyhow, now we're gonna try to take the new one-piece line. Look at this. Look at this thing. Look how ridiculous this is. You want me to put that one-piece line in? Come on, make it 2 pieces. Make it 3 pieces. All right, we're gonna try to get this in now. It's gonna be hard. All right, you got a little green O-ring in the bag. Make sure you put that on there. And now we're ready to try to install this thing. So what I'm gonna do is I think I'm gonna fish this piece up first. And then as I'm feeding it up, we're gonna just kind of slowly work it up and feed this piece up in there. And we're just gonna go like that. So let's see, which way do we wanna go? We kind of go somewhere into this mess. Like that. So you pretty much just strong arm this through that mangled mash of cables and wires. And then, so we're just gonna just feed this thing down in here somewhere. Kind of like that. All right, now we're gonna go lift this thing back up and try to get the other side up in. All right, guys, something like that. And what I'm probably gonna do is probably just stick a, I'll just leave it like that. We're gonna lower it back down. I'm gonna try to get this fitting started first. Yeah, I don't know. Can he pass it around? All right, we are at the bottom of the power steering's pump. Now for the tricky part where, all right, so you gotta like hold the line up to the bottom of the pump, but the nut is so stiff because it's new on the line that it doesn't just freely spin. So it's real tough, but you're gonna have to just get it started in there and then finagle a wrench in there and start wrenching it to get the threads to start. And hopefully you can get it lined up while doing it blind upside down. I'll let you know when I get it in. All right, so we got this thing started. There's a metal retaining clip that's down attached to the air conditioning compressor. That one that you've seen, we undid the one tang and then bent it back. If you start the line into that, it's going to help the line up correctly to the pump. So if you take a look from the side, you'll see that the line doesn't really go like vertical to the pump, not straight up and down. It's a little more leaned towards the front of the car.
I can't get a good shot, but show kind of.
It's basically, if the pump's here, it's gonna be like this, going in on an angle like that.
Just a little bit though.
Just a little bit. They put it on like a 7.5 degree angle just to throw you off and make it look like it's 90 degrees. All right, but yeah, we're using this stubby 18 millimeter wrench. Seems to be about the only thing I can get in there. You would need a pulley puller to pull this off in order to basically wrench it right from this side, because it's right there, but they put the fitting so close to the pulley that the ears of the wrench run into the pulley, so you can't go like this. You have to start about over here, then you got to put the wrench underneath of the intake, and you only get about this much of a sweep every time, and then you got to flip the wrench over and a little bit of a sweep, and it's just the worst power steering line I've ever done. All right, guys, so we pretty much got that snugged on there now, and I don't know how tight it's supposed to be, but you know, pretty snug. We don't want that thing loosening off at all. And now that we've got that tightened on, we're pretty much ready to do the other side. So we've already got it drooped down there, hanging down, so we're gonna lift this car up and we'll get that thing started. Okay, so we need to start the return line first, and then we can put our pressure line on that has the lock-in plate that keeps the two lines secured to the rack. So first things first, we'll grab this line. I think I strung it up here somewhere because it was in my way. There it is. And you can see how much corrosion and stuff is on the line and on the O-ring. So best to just clean that up before we go ahead and stick it in. And I think I'm actually just gonna put a little bit of dielectric grease on there to not only aid in sealing, but also to aid in the installation as well, because we want that to slide in pretty nice. All right, so now we can go ahead and stick that in there. I think it kind of just goes in like that, and then we'll take our pressure line, which we will also apply a little bit of dielectric grease to, and we should be able to take our little plate here, fish that around, and then get this thing started. You might have to reach up in there and get that thing situated in the right direction. And then we just slide our plate over like so. Get our bolt started in there, and then we can just tighten it down. All right, so now we've gotten that tightened down. That's pretty good. And you can just see we've got a bunch of little plastic clips like this, these little dog bones, and just slide them around and hook them on to the lines, whichever way they need to go. Something. So this is the piece that I was talking about. That is the holder, one of the holders anyways, for the line that we just installed. So make sure that you get that lined up and put into place before tightening down that line at the pump. It'll save you a bunch of grief. And I'm gonna probably transfer over this other one that's over here. We gotta stick this thing back on here. This is the return hose. And it's supposed to be rubber, but it's hard as a rock. And we'll just stick our clamp on there with some pliers. No, that's not the right way. This one goes over here. Around this. I think. Yeah, it must be a different routing. All right, that's the way you do it. And then this tensioner is supposed to be like spring loaded and go back automatically, but it's pretty seized. So just give her a good shove the other way. Pull an overflow reservoir back in. You can see the motor mount stud there. That gets lined up like that. Couple 10mm bolts, tighten those down. All right, we're gonna, oh wait, hold on. Okay, so somehow, I'm pretty sure these like lift up and this gets snapped underneath, but I tried earlier to like pop them in there and it was just being a pain, so I don't know. Can you tell me if that's right? You guys let me know in the comments if that's right. Or am I supposed to pry this up like this? God. I so badly just want to say, fuck this car. Whatever, that's the way it's going in. It's gonna get shoved in there. I'm done. Okay, and then this thing just goes in here. And the bottom of the tray, oh, I see, otherwise it's gonna fall down now. Okay, whatever. The bottom of the tray is broken off over here, and I gotta get new nuts because these ones are completely rotted out. Alright guys, computer now. We're almost done. I know you've been wanting to see the end. Here we get those lined up, and then you just basically pull those closed like that. Line your stud up, put that in. That just sits there like that. Then we're gonna start a couple bolts. We got one here and then nut over here. Battery. Then we gotta fish this little cover piece over the battery hold down. One bolt goes in here. Two nuts on the hold down. And we tighten that down. Battery's good and secure. Probably should have fished that out before, but that's all right. Stick that on there. And we're gonna go positive terminal first. Negative terminal. And we're gonna do our airbox next. That just sits down there like that. And plug that in. This thing just goes on there like that. And we got this line right here. It goes on something like this. This one plugs in here. Then we just tighten down this band clamp. Okay, now we just have to fill up the power steering fluid and bleed it. All right, we're gonna put some transmission fluid in here now. It's just 6 speeds or more. Okay, now what we're gonna do is just turn the key to the on position, but don't start it. We're gonna turn the steering wheel from lock to lock a bunch of times. And what that's gonna do is gonna move the rack and it's gonna pull fluid in. And as it does that, it's gonna purge air to the top and bring the fluid level down. Then we'll come back and add some and repeat. Did it go down any? A little bit, but not much. All right, now I'm just gonna start the car, but then shut it off right away. I'll start the car and shut it off right away. I don't want the pump running too much, otherwise it aerates the fluid, and then the pump whines and it just sounds like crap. So I just want it to turn the pump over, but without running it, kind of thing. I guess I could do clear flood mode if this car has it, where you just hold your foot on the gas all the way down and then crank it. All right, so you can see we suck the bunch in, fill it up and repeat. Not bad. All right, so I'm probably just gonna let it run now, and we're gonna see what it sounds like. So you can see that I didn't get all the air out, so now it's all aerated and there's not much we can really do, so I have to just wait. Takes about 30-45 minutes for all the air to slowly rise to the top of the system in the reservoir. And then as that happens, the level will go down as all the air comes to the top. So I'm just gonna leave that for now. And basically what you do is just, once the level is topped off and good to go, you just run it. And then I'm gonna do a follow-up inspection just to make sure that none of the lines are leaking and everything is working the way it should. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, throw them in the comment section below. Hopefully your replacement is easier than mine was. But yeah, give us a thumbs up if this helped, and subscribe if you want to see other cool videos like this. We'll see you in the next one.